Some brands offer you low finance, or cashback, or servicing.
Renault don't do ors. We do ands. The Renault Kadjar with 1.91% APR and €1,000 cashback and 3 years servicing, saving you thousands. Renault, the brand with the ands. Visit your local Renault dealer. Finance is made under a hire purchase agreement. Terms and conditions apply. Deposit required subject to lending criteria. See Renault.ie.
Hello and welcome to Ipso Facto. The world still mourns, in a brightly coloured diaper, the tragic loss of animal abuser, bus rapist and serial killer Bernie Hedgeclams, who sadly passed away last week of natural causes when down-on-his-luck alcoholic but dogged police detective Alan Lego embedded an axe in his face. Remembered for his best and most violent work early in his career when he strangled a family of Dutch tourists at a Bring a Jar of Phlegm party and sit-down pie vigil in Oxford, Massachusetts in 1972, Bernie would go on to be quite the celebrity murderer, meaning he would often murder celebrities, especially ones that he felt had too many teeth. Doing the chat show circuit at the start of the 80s, often performing an audience-pleasing garroting or the odd surprise public disembowelment of a teen idol or chef, Bernie was heard to remark that even in my darkest moments I still find pleasure in my harmonica or, eating dogs. He dabbled ill-advisedly with poetry, released a book of his favourite canine recipes, and even did a workout video which, to this day, remains in the Guinness Book of Records for featuring the most beheadings during a videoed physical exercise demonstration of all time. When Norris McWhirter showed up to present him with the award, his robotic green chimp men entourage came armed. After his album of country hate ballads in 1989, My God's Whiter Than Your God, Bernie retired from public life for a while and children could play outside again. Claiming that the demand for his judgmental, voices-in-his-head-driven murderous impulses was just too high by the time the Jerry Springer Show was airing regularly, he decided he needed a break. There's nothing worse, he said, than when an artist's work gets stale. Except perhaps when you slip accidentally, severing the genitals of a chloroformed dock worker at 2 PM, and before they can wake up, it starts to rain. That's pretty much the absolute shits. Retreating to his woodland cabin, where he kept all the skulls and the tiny, tiny shoes, very little else is known about this almost decade-long period of his life, where you just hear the odd report that he had been seen in a built-up area stalking a breakfast show presenter with a ski pole, or jumping out and repeatedly punching a self-help book author in a fancy restaurant. Apart from these isolated, enjoyable episodes, mostly the public just longed for his glory days, when he would happily stab in the chest and neck a weather girl, or one of those twats that understands the economy and explains it loudly at parties, even when nobody's asked him to. It wouldn't be till 2008 when he emerged, thinner and noticeably older than before, but still covered in feces and blood, to perform a triple homicide in front of some Danish royalty at a charity event in Oslo. Treated to a hero's welcome on his return to Washington, D.C., cries of joy soon turned to shrieks of terror as Bernie, always the jokester, waded into the whipped-up crowd with a machete and a belt of hand grenades. After what was one of the single biggest mass slaughters perpetrated by a bearded man in a toga ever televised, producers and managers were flocking to sign Bernie up for a lucrative merchandising deal and the chance to get exclusive rights to his drug and wrath-fueled death binges. In 2012, Bernie claimed to have found Christ, carrying in a bookshop behind some pamphlets on dealing with an elderly bladder, and had shot him in the face with a bow and arrow. This attracted the attention of the bookstore clerk, a buxom, lively, and highly stupid girl by the name of Mary Fitzarse Trombone Doily, and the two fell madly in love. Well, after the stitches healed in the leg wound Bertie gave Mary before she could explain to him that she'd rather like to touch his dirty love wand. Thinking his current relationship status would have led to a lull in his repeated killings, children poked their heads around their living room curtains and waited with anticipation. Sadly, it was not to be, and by the time 2014 rolled around, Bertie and Mary had almost wiped out every single anthropomorphic insurance company mascot creator and the person who invented Tinder. Having been hunting him for half his adult life, Detective Alan Lego only caught up with Bernie in a rundown motel after Bernie had set fire to the person who let Miley Cyrus have a TV show and several members of the Benedict Cumberbatch fan club. Lego was actually officially off the case on account of being too damned handsome, drunk, and dedicated to his job. He didn't take no for an answer, however, and on that tragic day, the world lost a great entertainment killer. Efforts since last week to develop an Alan Lego talk show have been wildly overreaching, and the best we can hope for from now on is a YouTube video occasionally of Lego's rising despair now his greatest challenge is over. But enough of all that flim-flammery, it's time for the after-movie diner! Twice as long as I can use, and the girth is almost unmanageable. Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of the After Movie Diner. And I'm sorry it's been such a long old time, but we've had all sorts of stuff to do. We've had lovely, wonderful visitors from the UK who have come and joined us. Hello, Amy, Inda. We've also had breakfast with, international directing superstars like Matthew Vaughn to attend, and articles to write, and various other things to do. So I'm sorry that there hasn't been an episode in a long time, and I hope to rectify that over the next coming weeks as we slide down into Christmas Town. A little bit of bad news, though, on our end, is that none of you wrote in to claim your free Best of Moten Media CDs. What happened? Well, I think that maybe I dropped the ball. I didn't advertise it as much. I mean, I make the announcement on the podcast, but maybe I should follow up with, Twitter and Facebook and really push it in your face. So this time, that's what I'm going to do. So please ignore last time. This is the real time. We have several copies of Moten Media's 50 greatest hit songs on a CD, professional CD, to give away. And all you need to do to receive a fantastic CD copy of Moten Media's 50 greatest hits is to write me an email. That's it. Just write me an email. aftermoviediner@gmail.com. All the emails will be read out, and the best email will win the prize. So please, please, please do that. Moten Media is absolutely fantastic. If you don't know what it is, you can check Motern, that's Motern, Media, out on Spotify or iTunes. But basically, it's my good friend Matt Farley from Massachusetts, who's been on the show several times. He made movies such as Don't Let the River Beast Get You and Freaky Farley and other things that we've covered on the show. And I also recently appeared on his podcast, the Moten Media Infomercial Podcast, which you should all go and listen to as well, and can be found on iTunes. So please go do that. Go listen to his stuff. And please, please, please write us an email at aftermoviediner@gmail.com. Thanks.
Oh, the freezer's broke, gotta eat all the ice cream. The freezer's broke, gotta eat all the ice cream. The freezer's broke, gotta eat all the ice cream. Hip, hip, hooray. The freezer's broke, gotta eat all the ice cream. The freezer's broke, gotta eat all the ice cream. The freezer's broke, gotta eat all the ice cream. Hip, hip, hooray. We can't just let it all melt away. We gotta eat all the ice cream today. Hip, hip, hooray. Don't tell anybody that I just unplugged it. Don't tell anybody that I just unplugged it. Don't tell anybody that I just unplugged it. Let them think it's broken. Don't tell anybody that I just unplugged it. Don't tell anybody that I just unplugged it. Don't tell anybody that I just unplugged it. Let them think it's broken. The truth does not have to be spoken until all of that yummy, yummy ice cream is in my tummy. Yeah. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Ice cream in my tummy.
So that's just one example of the fantastic 50 greatest hits of Moten Media. I'm sure you agree that is worth being sent to you completely free of charge. So send us an email, aftermoviediner@gmail.com. And now, let's take a walk amongst the Neesons.
Ice cream today.
Okay, well, hello and welcome to another After Movie Diner, and this week we're sat in the Skylight Diner.
Welcome to the Skylight Diner.
Welcome to the Skylight Diner on 34th Street and I think 8th Avenue, 7th Avenue? Something like that. 8th Avenue.
Did we walk east or west?
I don't know, but it looks very nice. In terms of appearance, it's a 10 out of 10 for me.
Oh, they've got an Anthony Quinn omelette.
Jim already likes the name of the omelettes. We've got wonderful black and white pictures of old New York, and we've sat under one where they're building a skyscraper, and two men in black tie and way to get up are serving two construction workers what looks like a very fancy meal.
Over, is it the Empire State?
I have no idea, but they're hanging on what appears to be just a beam. That looks scary. That's scary just to look at. There's lots of black and white. It's some nice contrast with a hint of blue. Everything is black, white, blue, or grey. It's a lovely, lovely old Art Deco looking place with a little bit of 50s thrown in for good measure. We've got a neon clock, which I'm very happy with and impressed with. And I'm going to have the special tonight, which is chicken pot pie.
I'm thinking about the cheddar and broccoli.
He's still thinking about the cheddar and broccoli.
Yeah, I think I'm going to get the cheddar and broccoli on that.
Nice call, Chief. Nice call. That was nicely easy made. And we just went and saw
A Walk Among The Tombstones.
Yes, indeed. And I am sat here with my erstwhile movie and diner companion, Mr. James Wallace.
Thank you for having me.
Last time you will have heard us probably would have been the Calvary episode.
Calvary, yes.
Which weirdly enough went up today, the day that we're recording this. So Walk Among the Tombstones with Mr. Neeson, because it is Neeson season. That's what it is.
Yes, I would say it could be summed up in the phrase much better than Calvary.
Yes, much better than Calvary. I mean, in terms of what Neeson has been doing, film-wise, it's sort of not in the action stakes at all, but in the quality stakes, it is up there with Taken.
It reminds me of, yes, absolutely, but
because Taken 2, Unknown, The Grey.
Actually, I quite liked The Grey.
I liked Non-Stop.
I did like Non-Stop too. I liked Non-Stop and I liked The Grey.
Okay, well for me,
Fine.
it's Taken, Tombstones, and Non-Stop in that order, in terms of like top 3 recent hard man Neeson roles.
I'd probably have to go with Tombstones.
As number 1?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Taken.
Above Taken, eh?
Well, Taken was a great. Don't get me wrong. Taken was a great film, but in the same way that. No, because no, that doesn't. But I was going to say, in the same way that another Jason Statham film I prefer to The Transporter. The Transporter is my favorite. But I think Tombstones is a better film, even though it's less fun than Taken. Like Taken, I enjoyed so much from start to finish.
Oh no!
When Taken was done, I was like, that's just enough for me. It was like a perfectly filling meal.
Right.
But just like I said to you after we walked out of Tombstones, I could watch that again right now. Right. I felt like there was so much more to it.
Yes.
Than I'd even seen.
It was. I walked out of Tombstone, and even while I was sat there, first of all, the highest compliment I can pay is that while I was sat there, I was thinking, what am I going to say about this movie? And then I was thinking, I'm really into this movie. I'm not even thinking about what I'm going to say about this movie. It was a total. It was what I love. It was a total immersive experience. This could go on for another 5 hours. Wouldn't bother me at all.
I really could. I was almost disappointed, just from a viewing spectacle, that there weren't. I don't know, that there weren't like more deaths and killings, and because I could have watched him trail that around.
Right.
I don't mean like in the future. I mean in the past.
Right.
Like more investigating for him to do.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? I could have watched him walk through 90s New York, like picking up like dirty bits of history.
Right.
For hours and hours and hours. I could have followed him around just doing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It was an exemplary film because it was well written, it was well directed, It was well acted. And off the top of my head, I can't think of a criticism of it. Some of the dialogue for the kid was a little... No, it was a little cliche, a little on the nose, a little, you know what I mean? Also, the only other thing I could say is that constant referencing to Y2K didn't really pay off as anything. It was just...
No, I did actually... I would say, on that particular point, one of the things I liked about the Y2K thing, and more what I was talking about outside, right at the end of the movie, and it's okay, I'm not giving anything away, and in fact I think it's of value to know this before you watch it. Right at the end of the movie, the camera like pans up, and there's all these buildings like towering above like this Let the Park people. And obviously the image that's supposed to be brought to mind here is like, you know, tombstones, these huge tombstones. And then as it rises higher, you realise that, oh, that's right, this movie's set in 99, and there they are, the Twin Towers. And there's this like ever so slight thing of like, the world's always been like a fucked up, crazy place with no explanations and just full of people trying to make their way and trying to make sense of it. And I think the Y2K thing was like a really, because the trouble is, right, it's not it's not that you're making a film in the 70s where you can give him like massive mutton chops and flares and there you are, you're in a slightly different place and time. In the 90s, like, except for the absence of cell phones, sort of New York basically looks the same in this movie anyway, right? I mean, a little grimier, a little grubbier, a lot less like shining glass buildings. It's more, you know, alleyways.
Yeah, no, but all the technology we have now exists then, just in a clunkier, crappier, right, slower, bigger way.
I think the Y2K thing was like a shortcut saying, this wasn't that long ago, but do you remember when like they're living in this world where like all this... The guy says at one point, you know, people are afraid of all the wrong things. It seems so incongruous, especially with that shot of the Twin Towers at the end, that people are running around and worrying about Y2K, and, you know, and when that was really a thing, and it was in all the newspapers, and people were scared of it. And meanwhile, these things in this movie are being done. And also, we have to know that only 2 years away is this like huge, devastating, world-altering event, and all everybody's worrying about is like, will the computers still be on? And when you think of it like that, I felt like it was a shortcut to grounding you in a time, which is why I wanted to go back and watch it again and watch it even more with that like ploughed into my head, because it wasn't until that final shot that I realised.
This is why I have to say I absolutely love watching movies with you on occasions like this where there was a big visual metaphor that I completely missed.
Well, because it was the end of the film, and like, yeah,
but your idea that those buildings are tombstones and the whole movie's like Walk Among The Tombstones and the whole people are scared, like you tying all that in, that like elevates it again to like a whole other movie.
But that's what I mean. Like, I'm sure there was loads of stuff through it that I totally missed, you know? There
was one bit in the middle of the movie where they started talking about character names like in shorthand, and I was suddenly like, wait, am I meant to know who any of these people are?
Oh, yeah.
And then suddenly I caught up to it.
Yeah.
But it was the idea that there is one of the victims, there is something we find out about one of the victims that is unexpected.
Yeah.
And for a moment I lost who they were talking about, but I picked it back up again.
Yeah, I think it was because, again, this is another reason why we want to go back and see it again. One of the things that happens...
yes.
Oh, hey.
Hi. Yes, I'll have the chicken pot pie, please.
We don't have it no more.
Oh, you don't have that anymore?
I was in the special gone right away today.
Oh, man.
All the specials?
Okay, hang on a second. Let me have another look then. Sorry about that, cheese.
So all the specials or just that one?
No, just the chicken pot pie.
But there's also the
Stay tuned, listeners.
There's also the
What will Crossy decide? We'll be right back after these messages.
Hello, Joel DeBardo Twizzletits here, and I would just like to say a big thank you to some of the people who have reached deep into their pockets to sponsor, patronize, or donate to the After Movie Diner. And there may be some of you listening to this show right now who are thinking, you know what, these fellas do a jolly good job, and I would like to show my appreciation for the jolly good job they do all the time by flinging them a few shekels in some way or other. Well, there are lots of ways to do it. A popular way is to go to plumbingfixtures.bandcamp.com. That's MISC, plumbingfixtures.bandcamp.com, and buying one of our many, many musical albums. Or indeed, you could go over to www.patreon.com, that's patreon.com/aftermoviediner, and become a regular patron to the show by donating just as little as $1 US, or indeed 70p if you're in the UK, per episode. And that's a fantastic way to support the show in an ongoing capacity. Lastly, some people have chosen to just go over to the main website, aftermoviediner.com, hit the little donate button there on the right and send some cash through. And to those people, I would like to say a huge and hearty thank you. And those people are Eric Foster, Meg Landis, fantastic, Jamila Chase, thank you ever so much for your patronage, Robert Long, Leanna Chamish, just wonderful, thank you so much, Chris Salt and Jennifer Hurren, Mark Burns, Jason Roth, and Oliver Harris. Just a huge thank you to all those kind and wonderful people who have chosen to sponsor, donate to, or patronize the After Movie Diner. And I do urge everyone listening that if you want to follow in their footsteps, you go to miskplumbingfixtures.bandcamp.com, www.patreon.com, that's patreon.com/aftermoviediner, or just go to the main page, aftermoviediner.com, hit the little donate button. So whatever you choose to do and however you choose to do it, we will be eternally grateful, and it will keep the After Movie Diner chugging along nicely. Talking of which, let's get back to the show.
So to a port wine, shit-ache mushrooms.
Shiitake, not shitake.
That's what you get after a particular. You're right now. Right, shit-ache.
Okay, I'll have the chicken marsala then, please. What choice of potato then?
Baked potato, mashed potato, or French fries?
French fries, please.
Any vegetables? Broccoli, peas and carrots, or corn?
Peas and carrots, please.
Soup or salad, sir?
That comes with it?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
That's soup. We'll have the soup. Unless you need the salad.
No, I'll have the soup. Do you have a...
Chicken and rice or a split thing?
Oh, that's all?
Matzo ball.
Oh, matzo ball. Yes, please. I like matzo ball. Thank you.
Cool. And I'll get the broccoli and cheddar omelette. No potatoes, but with no potatoes at all, but whole wheat toast.
No potatoes, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Any drinks?
No, not for me. Anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay, thanks very much. Anyway.
So let's begin at the beginning.
Sorry, yes, we should begin at the beginning.
Neeson plays an ex-alcoholic, ex-police detective.
He's not an ex-alcoholic. Oh, I guess he probably is, yeah.
Well, he's been sober 8 years.
He's been sober 8 years, yeah.
Is what I mean.
We see, it becomes apparent, it's not spelled out, but the film opens with the last day he had a drink, like the last drink he ever had. Now, again, now that I think about it, over to the last drink he ever had.
Yeah.
And what exactly, it's pretty obvious because like the film expects you to know certain things that, although you see what happens back then, the significance of that thing is last drink, and what actually, you know that you're missing something. There's more to that story to be revealed.
Right, which sadly is revealed in the trailer and really shouldn't have been. It's really annoying that that's revealed in the trailer.
It's true, but on the other hand, when you're watching it, you know that something happened, and you knew that he'd done something. And if you said to me,
but the problem with it being in the trailer is that it would allow you to, if you watch that not knowing the result of the shootout that he had in Washington Heights. That is the focus of the trailer, seemingly to sell it on the back of its action credentials, which is really not the case at all. Because you know that, it doesn't allow you to experience the character the way you should.
No, well, that's true. Although, arguably
because arguably what he does, and the reason why he goes hell for leather over the last case that he's the last kidnap case that he's dealing with at the very end of the movie. And the reason the whole 12 steps of alcoholism and all that is it's a little bit of a redemption. As is the kid that he kind of takes under his wing and tries to help out. It's a little bit of a redemption.
That's true, but in terms of the reveal and the knowledge, I think what's most interesting about the whole story, about the fact that we don't find out what happened. I think if you another movie might well have stuck that in at the beginning to explain better why, because you are left for a little bit going, I don't understand why he left the police. I don't understand, because one of the best things about it, actually, now that I think about it, is that first whole half of the movie, it's all very morally ambiguous, because you don't know, because you're right, actually, you shouldn't know.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Because you don't know, was he just like, because at the beginning of the movie, he just looks like, okay, he's a kick-ass cop, but he's also a drunk, clearly slightly out of control arsehole. So you don't know if, and he's an unlicensed private investigator, like I sometimes do favours. You're thinking, so is he just like a corrupt, no good? He was kicked out for being a no good drunk.
Right, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're right. You're totally right. You're completely right.
The fact that they revealed it in the trailer is
right.
Is absolutely.
I'm sorry. What I was thinking was what's another interesting thing that isn't affected by that is how long it clearly takes Neeson to talk about it.
Right.
Even in the in the AA meeting,
that's why we keep seeing clips of him in the Alcoholics Anonymous not talking about it and just giving them the pat answer of, I shot some hoods.
You're right.
That's why to reveal it in the trailer is like, man, it
does undermine it. You're right, because that whole first half of the movie, I'm thinking this is really enjoyable, and I could obviously, watch Neeson, be menacing at a cheese.
Well, one hopes because there's 14 novels that they do more.
I don't know. I mean, maybe they'll let, but with something like that, it's like Devil in a Blue Dress. You're probably only going to get to do one, so you pick a good one and you try and do it complete. And first of all, what a great title for a movie, like an ace. Not
only that, but it goes Liam Neeson in.
Yes,
A Walk
yes,
Among
it was
the
so.
Tombstones.
The whole thing had I said to you while we were watching it, the whole thing had a feeling of like one of those mid-70s.
That's how Neeson was selling it on the chat shows. He was saying it's not action, it's a 70s.
I can imagine watching it with you, like when we were 15, like catching it like 1:30 a.m. on like Channel 4 or something. Like we'd catch it like at the beginning with him like sitting in the bar and we'd be totally hooked. And we talk about it for years.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be one of those movies. It's going to be one of those movies that you'll catch on cable in like 5 or 10 years and go, what is this film? This is acing.
Yeah.
Because it's so moody, and I love the beginning. I love how like he's working for like a no good drug dealer, and as far as you know at this point, he's also no good. But the people he's going after, because initially you're like, so maybe it all went wrong. Maybe they're like, because I thought initially that maybe they were DEA agents.
Right.
Maybe it's something like they're frustrated with them not being able to catch the bad guy, and so they like take it out on his wife, who may be just as culpable for all we know. Like that could have been an explanation.
Right.
I felt like at that point, is Neeson getting in over his head here? Is Neeson getting involved in something that he's palpably not capable of dealing with?
Is Neeson in over his head? You see, you would have made a much better trailer.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like. A movie's got to be doing something right if it's asking you, is Liam Neeson over his head?
Yeah.
Like, that's good.
But what I liked about
it just slowly becomes like, you slowly get that thing where you start to realise
almost the recent Neeson persona of sort of action, tough guy, can take care of himself kind of thing, almost threatened to undermine the movie, because he needed to be a bit of a washed-up, schlubby gumshoe, is what he really needed to be.
That's, you know what? That's true.
But they do the right thing and have him. He doesn't go into a room and like martial arts a bad guy into oblivion. He actually gets his ass handed to him a couple of times during the movie.
And you know what? That scene in the shed with the bird guy.
Yeah.
That was so funny, and only Neeson can pull that off.
And it only works because you know that, or you believe that Neeson could
do that, yeah.
do what he suggested.
But you know what? On the other hand, actually, I think about it. One of the best things about like the ending is the fact that Neeson is, that's Liam Neeson, and he'll, hand your ass to you or whatever. Right at the end, you think that doesn't matter. Like the guys that he's dealing with, he only needs to be like restrained or like knocked out or something, like something relatively benign. Because it's not like Neeson versus 300 Algerians or Albanians or whatever, where you go, well, if they're going to put Liam Neeson against 300 Albanians, he's going to win, no question, right? Because otherwise it would be a very short film. But in that case, it's just him and one other guy. You're thinking, because if he loses this, he's not just going to get shot or die. He's going to. Well, that's terrific.
Thanks, man.
How's the food, see? There you go.
Thank you very much.
Have enough food.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
Wonderful. But do you know what I mean? Like, so the fact that he's.
I've just been handed I don't know how to even describe that.
It looks great. I love the way that you asked whether it's white wine or red wine, and he said no, it was sort of brown. You're going, brown wine?
It's whatever you do not go into this or do not rent this or whatever whenever this episode goes up, but do not go into this expecting action Neeson, but do go in
Private Eye Neeson, that's what you're expecting.
Yeah, do go in expecting
because Private Eye
ultimately cool Private Eye Neeson.
They reference Sam Spade and Philip Marlowe. I think one of the reasons they do that as well is because there's very little action in those movies. It's mostly those guys wandering around, asking questions and sticking their nose in.
What I like is that all the action is up front in the movie because of the nature of it, and it's almost as if to say, look, there you go.
Yeah.
Now please just go with us.
Well, but that persona that Neeson has does have value in that final scene because it's so meaningless.
Yes.
Ultimately.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Which I think is very cool. And there's a lot about. It's what I so want to watch this again. It's a lot like something like. It's not the same kind of movie, but similarly, when I got to the end of The World's End, I wanted to watch it again straight away because I felt like there was so much going on that I'd missed. Even though I'd been entertained from start to finish, there was so much happening that I'd missed. And just the same with this.
I have to say, I love the way this was shot almost more than I love the way it was edited. There was a couple of bits where it was shot...
He's a good director, isn't he, for a writer?
Yeah, there was...
Goes to show, Mr. McDonough, whatever the fuck your name was, it can be done.
Yeah. Except Mr. McDonough achieved it with The Guard.
Right.
He just tripped up on his second movie. But,
I'm sorry, keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt.
But there was this weird sequence at the beginning where he was like doing the schlepping around the neighborhood trying to figure out what's what and what was meant to be Red Hook. And there was a really lovely shot of the phone booth right in the center of the screen and him walking up to it. And weirdly, it was like sort of then jump cutted and edited around some other really nice shots. And I was like, you could have held all those shots for longer and you could have not edited between them. You could have just held those shots.
Right.
Like, I know you would hate me to bring it up, but like someone like Jarmusch would hold the shot, you know what I mean? And you'd be really intrigued by the shot. Now, he would hold it way past your attention span, and you would be like,
so where you go,
really, Jarmusch?
Jarmusch is a prick.
But, or Wes Anderson or someone would have like a really nice composition to the shot. And it had that aspect to it. It had a really nice, like, 70s...
Yeah, that's true.
Composition. Well, I just felt the editing didn't always help. Yeah. But I loved the way it was shot. I loved the him being very low down in the frame and the huge corrugated metal fences. I loved that at one point he walked past one that was like graffitied with Y2K. I loved the use of the frame, just the way they did it. The buildings being these like standalone buildings, like you say, like tombstones. These standalone buildings with nothing either side of them.
I had noticed that.
And him going in very much in the bottom half of the frame. him never filling the frame, him always being like either slightly off or just in the bottom third and stuff. It was really well done.
I wonder if, with what you're saying about the editing, if he didn't get bullied a little bit, because he is pretty inexperienced. I think he's only done The Lookout other than this.
Right.
He's mostly a writer.
Right.
And he wrote Outside, which the more I see his stuff, the more I realise how great that movie is in large part to his script.
Right.
I love The Lookout. It's such a great film. And I wonder if, with his inexperience and using Liam Neeson, and reportedly he has been trying to get the film made for a long time, but it kept falling through. And so he eventually decided to direct it himself. What's it like, by the way?
Really nice. Really nice.
So I wonder if in the editing room he didn't get bullied by somebody more experienced than him to doing it a certain way. Is that possible, do you think?
Yeah, quite possible. Or he went for something stylistic that didn't quite pan out.
That's possible. I imagine he would be worried about it being too slow, but honestly, you're right. I actually could have used it to be a little slower.
It was really only that sequence. All the other sequences were fine.
I love the rain thing.
It rained all the time. That was so good.
I want to go back.
And the soundtrack. Oh, that like booming, purposely 1940s sounding soundtrack. Was
I need to go back.
awesome.
See, it was really great, but I had no point did I go, oh wow, it was just
because you were so absorbed in the film.
Yeah, again, another reason to go back to it. But the rain thing, when the kid says, when they're in the library and the kids I just like to coming out of the rain because I like the sound.
Yeah.
And obviously you find out later there's more to it than that. And obviously there is even at the time. But there's also a thing of, that's cool to come inside because it would make a great sound in that big library.
There were
the idea of rain being dangerous, like the rain is dangerous.
All the bad stuff happens in the rain.
Yeah.
There's a couple of weird bits like I don't know why when they saw the daughter we suddenly got a kind of slowed down.
Oh, I know why. That's weird. It's interesting because, well, I don't know why, but it's the same with the beginning. When you have that really unnerving thing, it's like beautifully lit, and her hair is golden, and her skin is soft, and these loving hands on her.
Now that was a genius sequence.
Right, but because you know what it is?
That was a genius
Same with the
sequence.
girl walking across. It's like, for just a few seconds, you're in their head. Like, that's their world.
Right.
And what they're doing to her looks like that. When they see that girl walking across, it's like this thing out of a movie, like a romantic comedy where the girl walks across the street. But it's
someone was saying to me the other day. I was talking to someone the other day. It might have been the editor of Diabolique, which I need to tell you about after the show's finished.
Right.
But he was saying like you don't get those shots anymore. Those like well composed like interesting shots, and I forget the examples we were talking about. But this movie was filled with them, almost like cinematic heroin. Like I was like, I've missed this. Like this is what I've wanted.
Yeah.
And the sequence, which, like you say, you don't know if the woman's sleeping, then you don't know if there's someone's making love.
Birth? Is it a hospital? They're making love.
Well, no.
But there's enough like.
But then there was two guys,
really horrible, weird shots in there.
And then till the end, to pan down to her mouth to reveal that her mouth is taped, you were just like,
Oh no. It proper like hit you in the gut.
And it's over the title sequence, and like her character doesn't crop up until later in the movie. You don't know what it is, but it's such a beautifully put together thing. Because at the beginning of the sequence, because I thought halfway through the sequence, I was like, she's going to be a cadaver, and the hand we see is going to be the hand of like a mortician or whatever.
Right.
But that wasn't the case, because then you saw her cry, and I was like, okay. And then you saw two guys, and I was like, what the hell is this? And then you saw that her mouth was taped. It was like, it was so well done. And that is.
But that's the connection to the Little Red Riding Hood thing, which is this whole like it was almost like a Wes Anderson sequence, like her walking across with that like old '60s Donovan sound playing.
Yeah.
And it's like to these guys, what's happening now is they're having like a Wes Anderson spiritual awakening to this beauty, even though what they're actually looking at is the daughter of a drug dealer who they plan to like cut up into pieces. But to them, that's what it looks like, you know. the opening of the film is very strange and unnerving. And
Just well thought out.
yeah, totally different to the opening of which is very, dingy and 70s and gritty and action.
The opening is it's 1991.
Yeah. And then you have this other sequence that's over the titles that doesn't seem to have anything to do with anything except it's this deeply unnerving sequence where all light and golden hair.
It's a montage.
And golden skin, and in between like these beautiful shots in the montage are like really unnerving shots. You know what's happening. She's giving birth, they're making love, what's going on, and the more it goes on, the more unnerving shots happen.
I never thought birth. That's really weird.
I thought birth because I thought hospital.
Right, because of all the white.
Because of all the white and the white sheets as well.
I thought maybe it was his wife and he was coming home to her. That's what I thought it was.
Yeah, and it could have been, and that would be the convention in a Liam Neeson movie. It'd be like, I lost my wife when I shot the 3 guys.
Right.
And there would have been a shot, and then right at the end, she would have forgiven him as a ghost or something mad. But in this case, it was something else entirely, and very unnerving, and instantly set you up to this idea of that there's something wrong here. There's something wrong.
But it was done in montage and done really cleverly, so that as the audience member, you were taken on a journey you were completely unaware you were about to be taken on. Yeah. But it was so well done.
It was really, really well done. And just like the little Red Riding Hood sequence, the only time I think, although again, I'd like to go back, because there's an idea of like the world seen through the eyes of these 2 guys,
right? Which
is pretty rare for those kind of movies, and you don't find out really who they are, and you don't find out why they did it. There's no easy explanations, and one of the best things about that ending, the way that it ends, is that Neeson knows, as an alcoholic, very well that the one thing an alcoholic would do to justify their destructive, hurtful, bad behaviour would say, I just wanted to, there's always a reason, there's always something they wanted to do, and by putting the word just in, they're like, or only, I forget which, I only wanted to, I just wanted to. It's like minimising how harmful it is. And how harmful they know it is. It's like when it starts off as a simple thing, and then it just gets out of control, and I'm swept up in it. And that was very interesting. But you never found out where they got the files. You never found out where they came
from. Yeah, you did. We found out where they got the files.
No, you didn't.
No, he did. They took the files off the agent they killed. The female agent they killed. Neeson said at one point he did. He said, because that's the whole scene when he showed up at the drug dealer's brother and he'd been painting his wife naked.
No. They're not connected.
No, they were. That's why the brother, before the brother died, almost revealed that he was the thing that led them.
Yeah, to the J.E.A., right?
No. He was the thing that led them
right.
The 2 killers to his wife indirectly.
Yeah, but we don't know how. Oh, I see.
What I'm saying is, the J.E.A. agent, the female one that we never meet, but she gets killed, the one he looks up in the newspaper,
right?
The Hispanic one.
Right.
She is killed, right? They steal the files. They find his brother, the druggie's brother, in the files. Through that is how they found the wife, who is the first one that Neeson is called upon to.
I'm not sure if that's true.
That's exactly what Neeson tells him. That's why the druggie brother is so guilty. That's what the druggie brother tries to tell his brother at the end before he dies.
No, I understand that, but I think
that's exactly what Neeson tells him.
No. I understand what you're saying. I do, but I think what all Neeson says is wherever they got the files from, his name wouldn't have been of interest to the J.E.A. The J.E.A. would have known nothing about him unless he put them onto him.
No.
I think it's all one case. They get the files of all one case, and one of the people in the case is...
No, they got the files from the agent they killed.
But why? Okay, let me ask you. I don't think so. Or maybe they do.
I'm telling you, that's exactly what Neeson says. There's even a line of dialogue where he says they stole her files. That's what he said to the brother in that painting.
Okay, I see. Okay, fair enough then. Okay.
You're right, the druggy brother gave up whoever to the DEA. But the only reason his brother's name was in the files that she was carrying was that he gave up the name. But they stole the files off the agent they killed. That's the way it all... Okay. So I give your name to the DEA, right? Your name goes in a file of the DEA, right?
Right.
This DEA agent is focused on by these two killers. The two killers kill her, take the files.
But who's the girl that dies? Who's the girl that dies? The agent dies first, and then the one in the cemetery dies.
Yes. Everything comes from the one. Everything comes from.
I see. Okay. Okay. Okay.
The agent is the one that he's looking up on the microfiche at the library.
But the microfiche.
That's what they're called.
Really?
Those films that you put.
I thought it was microfilm.
No, microfiche. I used to have to log them and stock them in Las Vegas.
Oh yeah. Just in case Liam Neeson walked in and needed to find. That's cool. I didn't know you did that.
Mine was architecture, not newspapers, but it was for city planning.
I see. And this was in what year?
This was in 07, 08.
So why were they on little films and not on on the computers?
That's how everything's stored.
Really?
Governments still need to have hard copies of everything.
In case Y2K.
Right.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
It's only us lot they let us have fucking digital versions of everything because none of it matters.
Right.
But they need to have like fucking zoning and fucking land ownership.
Things that can't be altered.
Where?
That makes sense. I hadn't really thought of it like that.
And it was all down to me.
Well, look at you, saving civilization. Thanks so much.
I used to scan the maps
Yeah.
into the computer and they would produce a microfiche from it and I would have to scroll through the microfiche and check everything was okay and then put it in a little
So the
box.
fate of Las Vegas was in your hands?
North Las Vegas, yeah.
Wow. How's North Las Vegas doing these days?
Not very good, not very good.
Is there some connection, do we think?
Yeah, probably. It wasn't doing very good when I showed up either.
Oh, right, fair enough.
It had aspects of... What I liked about it as well is it had aspects of Seven and it had aspects of Zodiac, and it was like a really good Fincher movie without all the hullabaloo that Fincher tends to have nowadays.
Yeah, I don't know what... we can get into a whole discussion about that, but I have to say, I think for a guy who... he's obviously passionate about the books, and he's obviously passionate about getting the story made.
This movie.
Yeah, and obviously, wrote what he felt was a really good script that deserved to be filmed, and couldn't get anybody interested.
Until Danny DeVito and Michael Shambo showed up.
Right. Presumably from his Outside days, because they produced Outside.
Yeah, Jersey Films.
Right, there we go. And
they also produced Pulp Fiction.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yep.
But I would say, for a guy who clearly took on the act of directing it as in desperation,
way to keep the money down, I'd imagine,
did a really terrific job.
Yeah.
It wasn't self-indulgent. Certainly the dialogue could have been more self-indulgent.
There were stylistic flourishes, but they completely fit within the genre.
They did, yeah.
There was nothing within it where you were like, why am I watching this and why did they
why does this matter? It's really not and the characters were all... The drug dealer guy, he's such a Marlowe character. That guy who's, he's a bad man, but he's a bad man who's had his heart broken. And wants Marlowe to help him out,
And who was also thinking of going clean and, starting up an internet business.
That's right. It's very... If he'd run a casino and his best gal had been, you know what I mean? It was, right. I hadn't even thought about that. And again, I'd like to go back and see how many of the characters are kind of...
Although Marlowe never really works with the little kid, there are plenty of little kids throughout Marlowe movies where the little kid helps him, or someone with a little kid helps
using him like selling him a paper.
And also, the waster who runs his apartment building is so much like his shoeshine boy or whatever. Like,
but also utterly crap.
Right.
Self-involved. Like not that thing of the guy that helps Marlowe out is he's a good guy, he's kind, and you know he looks after Marlowe because he likes him, you know, and he'll even take a bullet for him if he need. But this guy wouldn't take a bullet for anybody.
No,
you know, and he wouldn't even give him accurate messages. He gets his name wrong, and he says he didn't leave a message. Oh, but then he did. It was great. It was nice little subversions, but not for the sake of it, just for a giggle.
And finally, his cheap apartment looked like a cheap apartment rather than here is the New York idea of what a cheap apartment is, which is like brick walls and fucking wooden staircases.
It had really boring windows.
Yeah, it was just a standard,
like grubby walls, and it was great. I loved how he kept his coat. I thought that was just horrific.
He kept his coat.
It was so. He must have been thinking,
I have to put on my battle armor.
Is it just going too far? Like the director goes, is this going too far? And then he must have thought, fuck it. It's brilliant. And he was right. If it had been all like that, it would have been too cartoony, but it wasn't.
But did you realise that he wore, up until that, he wore his brown corduroy jacket, his blue scarf and his roll neck almost the entire movie?
Yeah.
There was no period of him sleeping.
No. He looked like my dad in the early 90s. Like my dad used to dress like that in the early 90s.
Yeah.
The brown corduroy jacket and the roll neck sweaters. He did. He looked just like my dad.
But you never saw him sleep. It would just cut to presumably the next day.
Yeah.
You know, innocuous street in New York, and then these would walk onto the sidewalk in his brown corduroy, and we were off again.
Any time for you guys?
I'm all right.
No, we're good, thanks.
But that was why that final shot was so great too. And again, that hadn't occurred to me because Marlowe often gets woken up in the middle of the night, and quite often roused by police or a phone call or something, or is about to go to bed. Like bed and sleep and rest is like a big thing in noir, you know. Like they're either going to bed and then there's a woman in the bed, or they're woken up, or you know they're knocked out and like wake up in a druggy stupor. But that idea of like being fallible and is like a big needing.
And also the story not being over till it's over.
Yeah.
There's never a respite in the story.
Yeah.
There's never a bit where Marlowe goes, well, it's gone cold, so I'm just going to sit around for the next 5 days.
Yeah, until something happens. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. But that final shot was really effective. And the cartoon thing, which again I only put together because I was going, oh yeah, that's nice. Because I thought it was nice. He didn't draw a picture of Neeson. He drew a picture of himself. That was nice, and especially since it made you think about all the pictures before of like robots and people struggling, and, you know, it's like pain and trying to figure out how do I be strong. I think with why the robots, you know, trying to figure out how do I be tough.
You saw all this stuff in it I didn't see.
You know what I mean? No, but I didn't until that final thing. Just like the Twin Towers, that the picture of him that he drew of himself as a superhero, like brought all those other like scratches, because none of like in any other movie, like the picture the kid drew would be like it would be like a throwaway gag, or it would be like a picture of his mum or his ideal whatever, you know. But it would just like
or him and Neeson like solving a case.
Right, but it would be like they were proper like little scratchings and scribblings on the corner things that didn't make much sense, but there were like figures in there struggling to escape from like a there was one struggling to escape from quicksand, sorry, there was a robot, you know, like who is he? Is he a victim? Is he like invulnerable? You know, all these things he's trying to figure out. How do I play the fact that I am in the rain? You know, that rain is deadly to me. How do I figure that out? And then to draw that picture at the end was like the one thing, because Neeson might have looked back on the whole thing and what did I really do? You know what I mean? Like I put a stop to it, you know. But I think he would have wrestled with. There's the point about alcoholics is you're not, you know, like when the guy turns up at the meeting and says, "I've only been sober for a day because I slept," you know? And Neeson says, "Oh, that's okay." You know, it's total forgiveness because they know that you just got to keep trying. That's all there is, and that's why he wanted to like get the guys arrested and like that's what you're supposed to do. That's the 12 steps. And I think that's why I really want to watch it again. But I think what happens at the end with the 12 steps is more about him and what's happened and the people that they might hurt and the fact that that this guy won't ever stop. You know, that even after everything has happened, even after his partner's dead and it's all obviously over, all he's seeking to do is justify. There's no great moment of this is what I've done, this is who I am, I need help.
I was worried it was going to go a bit 8mm at one point.
Yes, me too. I'm really glad it didn't.
Yeah.
You're right. I was worried about that bookshop thing when they went down to the bookshop. But in the end,
the video shop.
Sorry, yeah. In the end, that was what was cool about that was there was this feeling of this like hidden New York, like that it moved around the video store. They need to know you before they'll let you in. He's in this video store, and this whole hidden under this hidden New York.
Yeah.
Which again, I guess has significance.
And the fact that it's like video stores and not. It's why you can't. It's why you can't do a decent detective story these days.
No, that's true.
But that's what annoyed me about The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. The redo was that it literally was Daniel Craig on the internet. I'm like, well,
yeah. One day someone's going to. They cannot figure out how to make computers exciting.
No, because they're not.
Yeah, it's a big problem for Hollywood. But I'm sorry, I just wanted to tie very quickly the underground bookstore thing to what you saw with the Neeson always being at the bottom of the frame, and everything's always towering above him, and he's always going in on the ground, like underneath it. You know what I mean? He's always underneath stuff. It's interesting. There's so much going on there. Like I said, I just want to watch it from start to finish all over again.
The only time he towered really over anyone was at that beginning montage where he was getting all the bits of information from the neighborhood people, and there was that informant down in a garbage stairwell.
Oh yeah.
And he was kind of towering over him, but I mean, I don't know that there's any significance to that. I'm just saying that was just to speed the movie.
Again, I think that would probably be, if you were going to really look into it, that bit is probably. There's all sorts of bits of New York. I think him coming up from underneath, and he's like a good guy, and he saw things, and he's just doing a job. It's not all not everything underneath the surface is bad.
No,
it's just things are happening that you don't know about necessarily. And whatever this guy was doing down there, whoever was shopping in the shop didn't know anything about it. So it's not bad. Like the guy making the bread, at night. There's all these things happening in New York that you don't know anything about, and some of them are fucking awful, and some of them are just people making bread to get by, or painting pictures. There's all these things happening in dark rooms and underneath, and people don't know anything about. And even the stuff that's right in front of him, he doesn't buy. I mean, he walks in and goes, "Yes, you've got a nice house here. So, what are you, a drug dealer?" You know what I mean? He doesn't. "I'm in construction." Sure, you are. None of it is face value to it. It's always there's always the thing that's happening behind the thing that you see, because he knows that that's what New York is.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting film.
Really good, really well written, really well done.
It makes me want to go and watch The Lookout again, just because I remembered really enjoying it.
I have The Lookout somewhere, I think. I think it's on one of those 4-disc.
Oh, like Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Miramax type thing. No, I think it's a Miramax thing, and The Lookout is just thrown on there as a side thing.
I really like that film. I'd like to see that again, because I think I caught it on TV one night when I was first over in New York, and I think I watched the middle half an hour of it, and having seen it before, I was again totally hooked. And I haven't seen the beginning or the end of it since that little point. I'd love to see it again, because he's obviously a very talented guy. And I could easily watch.
Do you want to know what's funny? Is that the summer went by, and I saw a bunch of the big releases. Guardians of the Galaxy, Expendables 3, blah 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 blah.
Captain America, by the way, I'm with you. I was not impressed.
What, Winter Soldier?
Winter Soldier was not impressed. It's fine up until about halfway through, and then it becomes about I have to replace microchips in.
What about the Serenity ending that makes no sense, because without a Black Widow's backstory, what she does at the end has no weight. That's the real major problem.
What does she do at the end?
The Serenity ending at the end of Captain America Winter Soldier is that she releases all of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s computer files, including her own history, in order to shame him, which is exactly what happened at the end of Serenity. He releases everything about the Alliance to the world, right?
Right.
Which is you can't get at me anymore. which is exactly what happens at the end of Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Yeah, that's true. Although,
But it holds no weight because there's no build-up as to what
it does. No, you're right. The only time it has weight is after. There were things about it that I liked. I liked the going on the run thing. I loved like Robert Redford as the bad guy. And me and Teresa were trying to think. We don't think Robert Redford's ever been a bad guy. We can't think of a single movie where he was a bad guy.
I'll have to think.
We can have a think about it, but I liked that because he's so always like. We did watch All Is Lost, by the way, and that was terrific. That was a great film.
It is?
Yes, it's really
Him on the
good.
boat?
Yes, it's really good.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I loved it. I thought it was great.
Okay.
And when you watch it, people, I think people got arsy about the ending. They felt it was too Deus Ex Machina, right? But
I don't know what that means. I pretend to know what that means, but I really don't know what that means.
It's a way that Greeks used to end plays, and Shakespeare used to end plays as well, which is like you create a whole big mess, and then literally God walks in and sorts it out.
Right.
And you went, okay, that's like it's the laziest ending to a film ever.
Right.
You don't have to tie anything up. God just walks in and goes, right, you marry her, you marry him, stop fighting, the end. Let's all have a big party. Like that's how Shakespeare did it. I may be getting that wrong, but that's basically what it means. It means God out of the machine. It means God walks out and sorts everything out. And it's like it pisses you off because it's unearned. But in the movie, people misunderstood people misunderstand the nature of huge tankers and ships. And so I'm not going to give it away, actually, but just keep that in your mind when the ending happens. That people misunderstand the nature of big ships, specifically how much time it takes them to stop, which is usually about a day and a half. So anyway, but watch it. Me and Teresa thought it was really, really great. Even though there's no dialogue. Like there's a few bits here and there. It's like him shouting at things, but we loved it. And he's so gnarled. You know what I mean? And his hands, it's great. Watch it.
Okay.
It's on Netflix.
Okay. But Walk Among the Tombstones, go see it, go see it, go see it, go see it.
Yes. Go see it and then go see it again.
Yeah.
You know, if you're the kind of person that saw Avatar twice, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Go and watch Walk Among the Tombstones.
No, but my point was...
It makes me want to buy the books. It does make me want to see Liam Neeson in it, like adaptations of every single one of those books.
Yeah.
All directed by Scott.
Well, for example, like, nobody thought Jack Reacher would swing, and everyone loves it. And, like, even beyond the fact that he doesn't look like Jack Reacher and blah, blah, blah,
they are making more of them,
yeah, people really like the fact that it was just a good old-fashioned thriller, throw in a little bit of action here and there, but basically it did its job.
I'm all for it.
And there are too few movies like that. And if Neeson and Cruise can get them made, then so much the better.
I agree. What's weird about it, even though it had like the 70s feel, it was a throwback to the 90s because there were little films like that knocking around.
Right.
That were really fun.
And I think that
when the 70s became cool in the 90s again, you know.
My point was though is that I sat and watched all the big releases this year, and were fairly
I've been underwhelmed.
Underwhelmed by them, right? And then I saw Tusk, and I saw this, and although I'd already seen it because I have the Blu-ray, I watched Zero Theorem,
Thanks so much.
which just came out this weekend, although I have it on Blu-ray, thanks to Paul. And every single one of them, considering they're all relatively low budget, relatively indie, and they've been like stuck into this netherworld of we're not going to release anything for a couple of weeks kind of vibe.
Yeah, they don't know what to do. The truth is, they don't know what to do with like
autumn
mid-budget movies that are like 8-9 million. They don't know what to do with them. They can't push them as.
And
like,
they
big
all
blockbusters.
have been more interesting, more impressive, more enjoyable, and generally more of what they should be doing than any of the big budget movies. And I include Guardians of the Galaxy in that, which everyone went loopy over, and I was like, it's fine, but it's not.
No, I suspect I'm going to feel the same. Like Captain America suffered hugely, I would say, for the fact that we started a bit late and we stopped and we watched like the last half hour, last 40 minutes the following night, and a lot of the goodwill that had built up by being quite been quite exciting and going on the run, and some of the action seems quite fun. And it lost a lot of that, especially since like it was all built up as a fight between Captain America and Winter Soldier. In the end, it wasn't really one. And it was like a Chip pointed out, it was like Halo, the game Halo, where it was like there's no real story. He's got to get to like 3 different ships and swap fucking. How was that a film anyway?
Right.
But yeah, it might have. I mean, it was okay, and I think I'll feel the same about Guardians of the Galaxy.
The problem with the Captain America sequel was the fact that it was all clearly built up to tear down S.H.I.E.L.D., and that's all that fucking mattered, because that is clearly whatever matters to Marvel, the next step, right? Because this big machine is now just fucking moving. And I think we're going to find this more and more with Marvel movies. It's why Iron Man 3 continues to be really interesting, because what he does at the end of it is basically quite happily shuts the door on that trilogy if he wants to. And it feels less like the machine moving along and more like Downey Jr. and Shane Black going, well, look, there you go, there's your Iron Man 3, and then walking away from it. Yeah. And judging by the negotiations going on over Iron Man 4 and Avengers 2 and 3 and blah, 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 I imagine that it was very much like, sorry, my movies are the ones that are actually making the money for you. I will be doing this ending, and thank you very much. Whereas Iron Man 2 smacked to me of, we've got to get from A to B, and we've got to get there, and okay, we'll let these guys do the action that they want, because there's some very kind of like visceral, real action that wasn't based on CGI throughout the movie, and we'll let them have introduce another character, the Hawk guy or whatever his name was. But ultimately, the biggest failing of the movie is that you spend so much time with him and Black Widow, yet we haven't had a Black Widow solo movie. They haven't done it. And we haven't had any flashbacks, and we haven't had, apart from one scene in the Avengers movie where she briefly talks to Hawkeye about they were in the, Russian whatever, for 30 seconds she discusses some shady past that's never really discussed upon. Considering you spend so much time with her, she tells him nothing. She tells the audience nothing. But then the big ending I'm meant to be emotionally invested in is that she reveals everything of her past. At one point Robert Redford says something about even Chechnya or whatever it was. And she kind of pauses for a second and then carries on and does it anyway. And it's but none of that means anything because I don't know who she is.
Yeah, no, that's true. That might be why the ending was very
it's okay to have her as the, much like River in Firefly, much like here's the one we're going to have a question mark over until the films come around to the right point where we can answer that. But they just blew that. It's all right having her in Iron Man 2 and having her in the Avengers and having her in Captain America, because you can spread the seed of what ifs throughout it. But if you have all that stuff revealed at the end of it, I'm sure they know what they're doing, but it just seems like they're tearing through incidences we have to disband S.H.I.E.L.D., so let's tear through that moment. And it's well, hang on a second, I'm still watching that. What have you?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
What have you gone and done?
Well, it wasn't that good. It wasn't that good. It was fun for a while.
And the Winter Soldier being Bucky, I was sorry, was I meant to care about that? Was I meant to know that?
Yeah, Therese had to keep asking me all the way through the movie. Who's Bucky again? And I was I think he was the one with didn't he? No, in fact, the reason I knew is because I read somewhere that the Winter Soldier was his mate. That's the only reason I knew. If I hadn't, I'd be I
rewatched the first one again, and I was yeah, they're mates, and then he dies halfway through the movie, presumably, falls from the train. We see no more of him.
Also, I'm not sure if I was Toby Jones, and I'd uploaded my entire consciousness into a series of computers that had lain in like a secret underground layer for decades and decades and decades. The first thing I did would be to call in an airstrike on myself. Oh, we'll kill him this way. Yeah, no, you're not going to kill him, are you? So you already done is commit suicide. You're a computer. You should know better than that. All right. Well, anyway, but I would agree with you. I've been distinctly underwhelmed by the big films, but I am very much looking forward to Zero Theorem. I don't think I'll be disappointed, even though we do disagree about Parnassus.
It's nothing like Parnassus.
But I think I'm going to really.
It's nothing
enjoy
like Parnassus, because Parnassus was him and Charles McEwan going, "Oh, let's write a Gilliam film like we used to back in the day." They're both old guys and they don't really know what it means anymore. So it's very like, here's a bit of Faust, and here's a bit of Time Bandits, and here's a bit of whatever. We're just kind of, that'll do. And there's stuff to get out of it if you want to get something out of it, but ultimately it's a very weak retelling of the Faust story. With a kind of really odd, ambiguous throat thing that doesn't quite make a lot of sense. Anyway, I still don't understand the end of Parnassus, but the Zero Theorem is a script by an actual mathematician, or like by a maths lecturer or something. Which, Gilliam's put maybe one too many fingerprints on, but it still holds it together. It's still a fairly...
He does. The thing is, like, still my favourite Gilliam film up to this point is The Fisher King, and that's somebody else's script.
Yeah, and that's one that he didn't put too many fingerprints on.
Yeah, but the ones that he does are like perfectly placed. Like they make all the Red Knight stuff, all that, it all works really, really well.
Right. I would argue that maybe in his joy of designing a world in the Zero Theorem, that maybe he loses some of the sharper edges of satire that could have been brought out of that script by another direction. But apart from that, it's a worthwhile entry.
Okay, well, I do really want to see it. But I would definitely say that is the best film I've seen at the cinema for a long old time, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I keep seeing these movies where I'm like, if you went in any other kind of mood, if your mood was either like, not you personally, but people in general, if your mood was like 5 points one way or 5 points the other way, a delicate movie like that could fall, could falter.
Yeah.
Whereas, for whatever reason, I keep going in and being in just the right mood for these movies.
Yeah, that's true.
Like when I went into Tusk, I totally understand why people came out from Tusk, and 50% of the people have been like, it's fucking awful, like it's an inside joke, it's a Stoner's podcaster joke that's just been writ large. And I know other people who have gone, wow, that was like really interesting and different, and that's what indie movies should be, and blah, 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 blah. And I totally understand why these movies are having that reaction. Because if you went into Tusk and your attitude was even 5 points either way from the mood that you should totally be in to see that movie, it really could fall apart. It's like, what is it, the cooking thing, like baking a flan or whatever, where like one temperature either way and it can collapse and ruin the pastry or whatever it is. There are these movies that are quite delicate because they're not dealing with, well, here's a Star-Lord and here's a green alien and here's a spaceship and we're blowing this up and blah,
that's
blah, blah,
another
blah,
reason why that opening sequence, the title sequence in Walk Among The Tombstones, is so effective, I think. Because if it had started with Neeson, flashback Neeson doing his flashback thing, and then if it had cut to like modern day Neeson being a bit grizzled and grumpy and whatever, you'd have been like, okay, so this is the movie and I'm going to get on board with it or I'm not. But sticking that really disturbing opening sequence that you're all the way through trying to kind of vaguely figure out, is this significant? Because there's too many things that are like catching my eye and striking me for it not to be significant, but I don't quite know what it is, and the longer it goes on, so it's totally taking you out of like Neeson.
Oh yeah, because when we first met the drug dealer and he had the painting of his wife on the wall, I was like, but the woman in the title sequence was blonde.
Yeah. So what's going on? Right. So what's nice is
it kept you.
The reason I think it draws you in is because you're kept off balance for like at least the first 45 minutes until it becomes apparent that Neeson's actually quite a good guy and they're definitely bad
you
guys.
have to.
But up to that point, you're not really sure
like
what's going
detective
on.
movies.
Yes, you do have to like.
And I went in there tonight going, just give me detective movie, give me
It's a lot like one of Benji's favourite films. One of Neeson's really early ones, where he's a private eye in Brighton.
Never heard of it.
It's very good. It's a bit more like, you know, as a private eye, he's maybe not such a great guy, and maybe he's a bit more of a you know, grubby, divorce-taking private eye, getting mixed up in something bigger than he is, you know, like they do. What was it called? Benj or not? I'll ask Benj, but it's very early Neeson. It's like maybe even early 90s. And it's a British film. He's like a private detective in Brighton. I can't remember what it was, but I think you'd really like that because that's an old-fashioned noir detective film.
But I love those.
Yeah, me too. I can't get enough of it.
It's one of the reasons why, you know, one movie that keeps coming back to me and I keep going, God, that's a good movie, is Bob Hoskins in Mona Lisa.
Yeah, I love that
because
film.
It's a detective movie.
Yeah.
Like, yes, he's an ex-con, and yes, he's not a detective, and yes, he's reticent, and yes, you know, he lives with Robbie Coltrane, and there's this whole thing. But it's a detective movie. He goes down into the underworld to like figure stuff out.
Right.
And the closer he gets to stuff that's like just darker and more twisted and fucking weird and mental it becomes.
Oh, now I just want to see Mona Lisa right now. Oh, that's my favourite Bob Hoskins movie. Yeah. I really liked Mona Lisa.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's anything that evokes that kind of feeling for me.
Yeah, I agree.
I like.
Yeah.
And they're a really delicate act because, you know, the end of this could have really been overacted. I mean, you look, for example, 8mm is a perfect example.
Yeah.
8mm is a great detective movie up until a certain point when he's on the phone with the woman going like, tell me what you want me to do, and you're like going overblown about like, do I kill this person?
It was a good script.
I'm sure it was.
Ruined by Schumacher. It was the guy who wrote Seven. It was the second movie.
Right.
Andrew Kevin Walker.
Yeah.
He wrote 8mm, and reportedly the ending of 8mm was like amazing, like in the script. I can't exactly remember what happens, but the guy never takes his mask off for a start, which he does in the movie. And he's like, "Oh, you're expecting me to look like a monster?" You go, "That's not clever." In the film, he never takes it off, and I think the detective ends up like killing him, and there's a whole blurring between like him and the guy and what's acceptable and what isn't. It's interesting. And the fact the guy never takes the mask off, like, well, who even is the guy? It doesn't even matter.
Right.
And anyway, so that's an example of a film where good script ruined by director. And this is one where a guy went, well, if I'm ever going to get it made, I'll have to direct it, and did a really great job. I mean, I bet Andrew Kevin Walker could have made an 8mm that we would probably not soon forget, because I imagine that guy's imagination, like, unleashed, also would not be pretty.
Cage, not a good.
No.
Down in LA and I'm listening to you guys talk.
Yeah.
Are you producers?
No.
Oh no, I wish. No, podcasters.
In LA, we'd be producers.
Yeah, no, we're podcasters. We do a film review program. Yeah, we do a film review podcast.
It's called the After Movie Diner. So we go to see a movie and then we go to a diner
and then we talk about the film. Yeah,
and that's what we do. That's
what we do.
And I don't know if you heard, but the fun way that episode actually ended was a lady from another booth leaned over and asked if we were film producers, which was fantastic because clearly we sounded like we knew what we were talking about, even though we probably don't. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that episode of the After Movie Diner. Here's some music. Have a good night. The music you're hearing is by the wonderful Glenn Barnes, brother to the very great but late Don Dola. And just wanted to play this to you because it's unbelievably amazing and was given to me personally by Glenn in the Fiend basement.